Today I'm going to show you how to get this look for a Southwestern theme inspired set of tables. I'm going to use some putty knives, a water spray bottle, and some Crackle medium, although not in the regular way. Alright, it's time for some Puttyknife Crackle Fiesta table finish. Let's get started. Today I am working on these two tables. I was thinking that they kind of reminded me of some furniture that I saw in Mexico, and so I'm going to use some colors like I saw in Mexico that were used a lot, and I'm going to use putty knives because a lot of the stuff that I saw looks like it was painted. Maybe people didn't have paintbrushes, or maybe it is a style that they like. I painted a base coat with Tiffany by Heirloom Traditions. So all of my paints are made by Heirloom Traditions that I'm using today. The red color is called Daredevil. The turquoise color is called Sail Away. The yellow is Sundance, and the orange is called Mandarin. So what you want to do is you just want paint on the very end of your putty knife and wipe it off the opposite side. That's how much you need. And you're just gonna apply it to the table. I'm putting it in, of course, in the crevices and corners where you would see distressing normally. I want it in these cracks. And then I'm just going to place it here and there on the rest of the table. You don't want it to be drippy, but having thick parts is good because that's part of this look that we're going after. So if you have, and that's part of the reason to use the putty knife, you can get these great things on these edges here. Use the flat part of this, and you can cover whole sections like that if you want as well. So I'm going to finish the rest of the yellow off camera. Once you're done with your first color, let that dry until it's dry to the touch. It could be 30 minutes to an hour depending on the weather. So I'll do the rest of the yellow and we'll come back for the next step. Okay, so you hear all these guys talking in the background. They're installing a fence at our house today. So I have all my painting supplies and paint outside, and they're literally like 5 feet away from me, digging holes for a fence. But I'm just gonna keep working. Okay, I don't speak Spanish, but I think they just said, "What is that crazy woman doing? Putting that paint on that table like that." I went really easy on the orange because I'm afraid of putting too much orange in there. But I only waited like 20 minutes before I started putting on this red. So I'm putting on the red in the same way that I put the other colors on, and I'm just going to try to fill in some of the empty space. But I'm not trying to cover all of the space because I want some of that color in that lighter blue to show through that I put on as a base coat. At the beginning of the video, I showed you how much paint to load up on the putty knife. But as you get used to using the putty knife, basically as a paintbrush, you will find that you can put a little more on there and cover more area. You just have to get used to how it works. But once you get a feel for it, you can certainly put more paint on there and then have to dip your putty knife less. So the red was my last color. It doesn't matter what order you paint the colors in. But red is my last color, and I'm going to let this dry for probably about 20-30 minutes. It's pretty warm outside, and then I'm going to come back and put the final coat on here. So once you get all your colors on, it should pretty much look like you gave putty knives to a class of kindergartners. So if it looks like a total hot mess, then you have done a great job. And wait 30 minutes to an hour to let it dry, and then it will be time for the next step. Okay, now my fiesta table is ready for the next step. I'm going to use the Sail Away paint color, and I'm using a Crackle medium that is a French word that says something like Maison Blanc, but I do not speak French. It doesn't matter what Crackle medium you use. There are plenty of good ones. So I'm going to brush on some Crackle medium. I'm not going to put it in every single place on this table. I'm going to put it in places that would naturally distress, like in these cracks. I'm putting on a medium amount of this. We're going to crackle this, sort of. We're going to use the Crackle medium to influence the paint, but not in the normal way you would use a Crackle medium. Use a pretty wide putty knife on the top just to get more paint on here. I'm going to crisscross in different directions. As always with Crackle, you want to go over the Crackle as little as possible with your paint, because when you do that, every time you go over the Crackle, it reduces the effectiveness of the Crackle. These little ridges it makes are part of this look. That's why we're using the putty knife on this. It is a totally different look if you apply this with a paintbrush. And you can, if you want it down in the cracks, you can kind of run it off the edge of the putty knife into the cracks. I think I showed that before. See, I just kind of globbed some on there so I could let it run down a little bit. Anywhere it does run, I'm going to clean that up later. It's not my goal to have it run, but it's going to, since we're putting so much stuff on here. The other reason I like this, to put the paint on thick with the putty knife like this, is that a lot of the older furniture was painted with oil-based paint because that's all they had. And one of the characteristics of painting with oil-based paint, if you didn't know how to paint, was that it kind of had this look. This is kind of hard to work with, and a lot easier to get big problem areas, a lot easier to get bigger problem areas than latex paint. That looks pretty cool there, but there's drips there. Just gonna scrape them upward. I scrape upward because if you scrape down, you end up with a pool of paint at the bottom, and it just makes more sense to me to go up. There's a lot of paint pulled here. Just gonna scrape that off. You can also use your water bottle. When you spray it on this paint that's kind of wet, it kind of washes the rest of it in that color. And if you wet it, it's also easy to rework it if you need to rework it. Now, you can use a rag to remove paint. See, there's a lot here, but I don't want to like rub it in too much. I'm just going to try to grab some of the bigger parts off of here. You can use your putty knife to get down in the grooves of your furniture. It's so you can see more of the colors that are in there. Taking the blue out there, you can see this yellow and orange. And then like this edge here, take the paint off of that. Let's take a look at this top. You know, other than adding some paint here and here, I think I'm going to leave this the way it is. I think that looks really cool. I'm not going to do anything to this. This is going to stay just like it is. I'll take some paint off these edges though. Some colors show through these. Separate out the red. Get this one here. Brought out some orange. So if you've scraped and you just might not like exactly what's going on, you can add a little water and it will move the paint around a little bit. It will make the lines that you made with this less harsh. See, now this red that I made, this line right here, has a little blue over it now, so it kind of blends in. This red and yellow right here, if I wash some paint down over it, it will make it not so bright. And then same thing here. If you didn't like this, I kind of like it, but you can make it not as dramatic by putting a little bit of water on it. And you could add paint back if you wanted to. And water that. So you can work and rework or not. And you just get to the place that you like it. There's not a, we're recreating old pieces of furniture, so let's try to get a feel for what you like. So you're probably making this for you. I'm not going to use any sandpaper on this piece. I'm going to do all of my distressing like this. So once I'm done with this paint part, all we'll have to do is seal this, because it is chalk paint. So, but I'm not going to sand this. This reminds me of when I was a kid. We used to take Crayola crayons and we would paint or draw a bunch of different colors on a piece of paper and then color with the black marker over top of them and then scratch off the black marker, like draw pictures and make letters. And so you would have the black with all these colors shining through, but that's what this reminds me of. So if you use this in the cracks, that takes out a little bit more because the t-shirt rag is taking out some paint along with the putty knife. So that's a way to get a little bit more paint out of your cracks if you should so desire. Kind of like that though. So this is what it looks like when it's done. I did a spray polyacrylic sealer on here. You can seal your chalk paint with wax or polyacrylic or polyurethane. I like how all these colors show through, and I like how it's a mix of some crackle and some just aged paint as though it's been painted over and over again throughout the years. Using the putty knife to apply the paint worked out well. It gives a layered look to the paint, just like I wanted it to. I wanted it to look like it had been painted over and over again throughout the years, and that's what it looks like. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and please check back often. I put up new videos all the time. Thank you.